Have modern risk managers become key drivers for shaping India's growth story by mitigating threats and seizing opportunities for business growth?
In a rapidly changing world where climate, technology and regulatory hurdles keep corporate India on its toes, there's a new trump card that corporate India is betting on: a professional risk manager. Managing a company's risk and insurance portfolio is a challenging task for this corporate warrior, given the complexity and oftentimes competing interests of numerous internal stakeholders. So how do they go about charting their path? Well, to shed more light on the subject, I'm joined by the Joint Managing Director of Prudent Insurance Brokers, Pavanjit Singh Dhingra. Pavan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And for sake of some context setting, today we live in an unprecedented time in human history. We're facing socio-economic upheaval, geopolitical tensions, and global macro developments that are completely unanticipated. What has this done to the risk landscape?
I think we're just coming off 2 years of a Russia-Ukraine war. India imports a lot of its energies from Russia.
Absolutely.
And there was no insurance available for that from global markets. So we had to come up with solutions for that. We are now in a Middle Eastern conflict between Israel and Hamas, and you have the Houthi rebels in Yemen attacking shipping. Again, that is changing supply chains dramatically because the routes that global shipping companies have to take has changed.
Right.
And if there are transits taking place through these troubled waters, you have very specific and special insurance requirements, which was never the case in the past. So this is another risk that is something that corporate India has to grapple with.
Right.
And everyone is struggling to understand what does it mean for them. We have seen massive supply chain disruption post-COVID.
Of course.
There's a China plus one strategy that most countries are following, most companies are following. And with these reshaping of supply chains, the exposure that companies are exposed to, the business interruption risks are totally different.
Right.
That all needs to be recalibrated and understood better. Climate change is something that is almost a cliche now. But with these changes, you're seeing more severe and more frequent weather events. In the past, I remember we would look at 1 or 2 act of God perils taking place in the Indian market. But last year it was 25 or 30 of them. And they are taking place in cities which never had severe climate events. I was reading the newspaper this morning where climate change means that Rajasthan is going to get more rainfall than it did in the past, right? That changes a lot of things.
Almost unheard of a short while ago.
Absolutely. We are all in a world today where data and money is virtually electronic for all of us.
Right.
There is terabytes of corporate data in public or private clouds. What does that mean from a safety and security perspective? What does that mean from a risk perspective? Stealing 1 crore rupees physically, actually it's very heavy. Walking away with 1 crore rupees is very, very difficult. Right. But, stealing 15, 20, 100 crores electronically is as easy as stealing 1 rupee. So that's another exposure that is completely changed. The intensifying war for talent is another area which I think we did not anticipate the ferocity of this war. In fact, we lived in a COVID time where it was supposedly work from home for the rest of our life. And today, companies are having to force talent. I have clients who say that if we insist that you come to office, my attrition goes up the next week.
Right.
So that's a war for talent that requires innovation. It requires customization. I think employees are looking for what can companies do for me specifically. And I think that really throws up a lot of challenges and opportunities for all of us. We've all now heard of something called ChatGPT that really popularized AI. Which was in the background, but now it's in the foreground. In fact, I've just come back from a holiday where I entirely built my holiday using ChatGPT in 1/10 of the time, and but very, very convenient, very, very effective. But all that data is in the cloud. So what does having AI embedded in our lives mean from a risk perspective? I think that's a question that we all have to understand and struggle with. With the social media lives that all of us lead, misinformation, identity theft, fake news, these are all things that we have to contend with every day.
As a news channel, we especially struggle to do so.
days. I get forwards every day which turn out to be fake news, so in fact, whenever you have a civil disturbance today, the first thing that the government does is they switch off the internet because of fake news. So these are challenges that we all have to grapple with. They are new, but I'm sure we will find solutions for them.
Well, Pavan, I want to build on some of your observations. And given the extent to which risk itself has evolved in the corporate context, right, have the roles and the responsibilities of the risk manager kept pace?
So, you see, the risk manager in the past was someone who was sitting in one place and really, doing a book study or placing insurance policies.
Right.
Entrepreneurship and business, by definition, is about embracing risk. What today's risk manager does is they allow companies to invest and do business with confidence because risk is well understood. They have helped their companies build a culture by which risk culture permeates, from top to bottom.
Sure.
And I think it is like any other function. I think if senior leadership has a view on how to effectively use risk management to grow and strengthen their business, I think the new age risk manager is ready and able to provide that service.
All right. Well, Pavan, you've said that, a risk-aware culture in an ideal scenario would permeate from top to bottom. But the hard reality is that risk management professionals and their teams are typically very lean, within the four walls of a corporate. So how do they grapple with addressing the broad spectrum of risk, be it insurable risks, non-insurable risks, and the partially insurable risks that corporate India currently faces?
I think by definition, all risks are not insurable. I think that's very clear. And I think the role of the risk manager is to help companies understand what is insurable, which is actually a fraction, but really how do we manage what is not insurable?
Right.
What is the impact? How do we build a culture that allows us to manage that risk? Sure. This is it's an evolving function, and it started off with people really thinking of insurance management, right? But risk management, coupled with risk transfer, is a growing area. Enterprise risk management, for example, is sometimes a different function in corporate India.
Sure.
So we see these coming together and working in tandem going forward.
Well, given that corporate insurance programs typically run a broad gamut, right, from employee health insurance, business interruption insurance, product liability insurance, and the list goes on and on and on. How do you, in your capacity, and how do you suggest corporates in their capacity differentiate between enterprise risk versus operational risk? Because I believe it's a critical differentiation.
So enterprise risk, is a much broader term than operational risk. Operational risk is a subset of enterprise risk. Enterprise risk would include reporting risk, include compliance risk, and basic business risk. Am I in the right business? Am I in the right market?
Right.
Is my product suitable for the consumer that I am targeting? Sure. So those are the areas which perhaps operational risk does not address. But where operational risk comes into play is are my physical assets insured? Are my people adequately insured? And those kind of things. So while enterprise risk is a much broader area, but operational risk itself is very complex and nuanced. And we find in corporate India sometimes there are different people managing enterprise risk and different people managing operational risk.
Right.
And as I mentioned in the last question as well, I think we see this coming together because there is an overlap here that needs to be addressed.
All right. Well, if that overlap does need to be addressed, perhaps what becomes all the more critical is creating a risk-aware culture, within a corporate, but all easier said than done. So how might you guide top management, across sectors to go about identifying, grooming, and nurturing that next generation of risk management professionals?
I think you rightly pointed out that it really depends on the top management.
Yes.
I think if you look at data around how many companies remain in the Fortune 500 and the longevity of their stay,
right,
and how many companies remain, say, in the Sensex or in the Nifty,
sure,
that keeps on changing.
Right.
And that time period has been compressing with time. So whether it's technology change, whether it is the advent, the easy availability of capital, and the hundreds of unicorns that have come into India now.
Absolutely.
So all of these changes need you to realize, senior management to realize that management of risk is key to longevity of their franchise and the strength of their business. So working with the enterprise risk manager, with the operational risk manager to ensure that they are able to understand the business, they are part of the decision making, and they are built into the fabric of the organization. I think that is what is critical to long-term success for these organizations.
Well, Pavan, you brought up ChatGPT a short while ago, right? And these have become buzzwords of sorts: artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, blockchain, so on and so forth. Help me understand the extent to which these cutting-edge technologies have permeated that risk manager's toolkit. And do these very technologies run the risk of putting that risk manager out of a job?
It's a very good question. I think, the insurance industry is already using a lot of these technologies. We're using big data, we're using AI, we're using ML. And we are using it not necessarily for consumer-facing applications, but on how we run our business, how we give advice to clients. I think the maturity level within corporate India of risk management has not reached a stage where they have sufficient long-term data to effectively use these technologies to make decisions.
Sure.
Will that happen in the future? Absolutely. It's inevitable. These technologies will permeate all aspects of corporate India. Will this mean that the risk manager is potentially out of a job? Absolutely not. I think the speed of change is such that this is a tool like any other. Definitely, I think when I was growing up, my father had a stenographer. So perhaps with word processing, stenographers are no longer in fashion.
Right.
But isn't it that we communicate a lot more? Isn't it that we send a lot more and receive a lot more communication every day? So I think these are tools. And it changes the nature of what we can do, but the number of variables are so many that what it really means is we're controlling more and more variables and getting better at it. So that's the role that technology is going to play. It's going to be a tool that risk managers will use as part of their repertoire.
Well, you just brought up the maturity of the risk management profession across corporate India. And I love your take on the extent to which that in-house insurance officer role has been a game changer for corporates, because it's a relatively recent development.
Yes, so and it's a growing trend. I mean, as a company, we get a call at least once a week from a client asking us to refer somebody because they want to hire an in-house risk
insurance
manager.
officer, right?
And the team sizes in larger corporates is increasing every year, and there's good reason for it, because companies are getting bigger in India today. They're getting bigger, they're getting more complex, they're getting more global. So companies today, if they were only in India and now they're in 15, 20 different countries, their risk is exponentially different, and they need to invest with the right people to make sure that they can manage that risk effectively. So, we see this as a very important and a very strong profession going forward. I personally believe that the number of professionals in this area will increase by 10x in the next 10 years. And I strongly encourage young people to seek this out as a profession. There's a shortage of talent, so you'll get paid well. It's good work. You'll be involved in all aspects of the industry, and it's part of a growing industry.
Well, that makes for a wonderful segue into my next question, which is, if you could pinpoint some of the India-specific or India-relevant, India-centric risk management solutions or risk transfer solutions or strategies that you consider to have been particularly effective.
So, I think by definition, all insurance and risk transfer strategies are very dependent on local law.
Right.
They're dependent on local custom. So for example, if I look at, French controlled countries in the past, they come from with the Napoleonic Code. Their insurance market is entirely different.
Right.
For example, in France, if you want to change your insurer or your broker, you need to give them 3 months advance notice.
That's so.
So
yeah.
it's unlike India, where you can do it one day before. You can change your vendor one day before. So there are a lot of these nuances which are different in various societies. I think India has embraced technology, both as far as distribution is concerned, as far as the way insurers manage their business. And I think that is one big change that you will see in India compared to the rest of the world, that the way we will use technology to really smoothen the customer experience. I think that will be one big differentiator. I think the other area where India can play a role is today, I think the number of court cases in India is a percentage of all court cases, is insurance. It's a large percentage, and that is a problem, and that is something that we need to find a systematic solution for. And I think as companies are getting listed, as companies are getting rated, there is greater transparency. I think IRDA publishes a lot of data on insurance statistics. The Broker Association publishes claims information on various insurance companies. And all these things bring transparency and better corporate governance and better customer centricity for this industry. And that is one area I think is an area of improvement for us.
Well, Pavan, time and time again in this conversation, you've brought up this particularly unique phrase of embracing risk. So what are some risk management strategies or solutions from our global counterparts abroad that India ought to be embracing?
So you will see one trend that you will see in India, and I think the regulator is preparing for that as well, is the use of captive insurance, where large companies, form their own insurance companies to manage their risk.
Sure.
When companies get large enough, their risk, global exposure is sufficient for them to really run their own insurance. And so they can retain a larger portion of their risk. And that is also part of risk management culture, is embracing that risk and not transferring everything to an insurance company. So that is one big change that will happen. Smaller companies will do things called rent-a-captive, where they will not make their own captive insurance, but they will, 10 or 15 companies will get together and form a captive insurer.
Right.
So that is another change that will happen, and I think that is a very positive change that will happen for the insurance market. I think India will leapfrog the world in the use of digitization.
I see.
And bringing technology to bear. We're a vast country, servicing 1.5 billion people. Without technology is simply not possible.
Right.
So I think that is where we will see a big differentiator. Do we have areas of improvement? Undoubtedly. And I think we will continue to have areas of improvement.
Such as?
Customer service. I think we need to get better at customer service. I think we need to be better at grievance handling. I think we have to find ways to get less into litigation. I think we need to find ways to be more proactive, in the way we give customer service.
Turnaround times, perhaps?
Turnaround times. I think the insurance industry is a very large part of the ecosystem, and we have millions and hundreds of millions of customers, but are customers always happy with us? Maybe not. So that, I think, is an area of improvement for us.
Sure. And to create a heightened risk-aware culture, within a corporate, it needs to trickle down to all levels of the organization. So how would you guide top management, to incentivize greater participation in that risk management process by employees at all levels of the organization?
So I think, in any corporate, I think whatever senior management shows that they value,
right,
that is what is lived on a daily basis.
Or by example.
It's by example. So I think companies where management of risk is part of the top-down message, I think you will find that culture in all companies. And I think the importance and the seriousness that is given, it is what you speak about on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
When you have all of those things, I think you will have greater adoption. I think some of this will also be driven by regulation. I think there's a greater emphasis at the board level on corporate governance and risk management. These are all things that have to be published in balance sheets.
Right.
So definitely that is another push that will come from the government.
All right. Well, Pavan, Season 2 of Prudent Presents the Risk Management and Insurance Awards is, of course, around the corner. And it's an industry-first platform that salutes and truly celebrates the contributions of risk management professionals, in-house insurance officers across sectors. What more is in store this season, above and beyond what we witnessed in Season 1?
So I think this year we are delighted to partner with RMiA as a knowledge partner. So RMiA is a pan-Asian risk management group, which is for risk managers by risk managers. So I think that is a risk management community which is contributing to this. I think that's a very strong pillar for us. I think ET is, of course, the backbone for us. And of course, ENY does a great job as far as governance is concerned and setting the right standard for widespread acceptance of this award. We have seen record participation this year, and we are extremely delighted by the response that has come in. And I think you will see this, as the risk management community explodes. I think this event, this award, will be a cornerstone of that growth.
Sure. Well, you've talked about what lies ahead, but by way of closing comments, if I were to ask you to walk down memory lane for a moment, today as a seasoned risk management professional, what might you characterize as the most critical piece of information that you know now, that you wish you knew at the very start of your career?
So I remember when I joined this industry, the total GI market was, I think, 10,000-12,000 crores. I think by 2025, we will be a 4 lakh crore market. That was unthinkable. So I think all of us, including insurers, invested tentatively because we never really anticipated this level of growth. I think we are all investing with a lot more confidence now because we do expect this industry also to become 10x in premium volumes over a period of time. Our regulator has laid out a very important roadmap of insurance for all by 2047. So we are going to be a part of the India growth and development story for the next 20-25 years. And I think we're going to play a very important role in that. Can you really develop without risk management? I don't think you can. So I think we have a lot of optimism in our industry. We tend to grow at double the rate of GDP. We've seen this trend for the last 20 years.
Phenomenal.
The insurance industry has not had a negative growth despite the 2008 financial crisis, despite COVID. In fact, during times of crises, we've actually grown faster than we've grown in the past.
Sure.
So I think that just shows the relevance and the need for risk management, and it is being embraced. And I think the future is very bright for all of us.
Well, we look forward to all that lies ahead, and we wish you and the larger Prudent team all the continued success. Thank you so much for joining us in studio, Pavan.
Thank you so much, Pooja.
With that, our curtain raiser episode leading up to Season 2, Prudent presents Risk Management and Insurance Awards, partnered by ET Now, with knowledge partner RMiA and EY's Process Advisors, comes to a close. We trust you found the insights shared of value. Thanks for tuning in.